Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the ongoing drama and controversy surrounding the Marvel Cinematic Universe series of films. Last year, Captain Marvel was a hot topic here to say the least, mostly because it was a movie no one asked for, with forced-in feminism and pro-progressive messaging getting shoved down our faces.
Yes, that movie that nobody asked for that made $358 million domestically and $645 million internationally, despite the movie costing about an eighth of that to make. Yep. Nobody cared, nobody asked for it, and yet we live in a world in which it made $1 billion, meaning that people were literally asking for it. They were paying for it. They were paying to see it. Anyway, this kind of stupidness requires a bit of a break, so let's go ahead and roll the intro and do this properly. Alright guys, like I said, let's do this properly. First, we do the affiliate plug, and if you want to plug your ears up, don't worry, this place sells plugs and you can get plenty of plugs, just not the plugs you're looking for. So if you want plugs for various reasons that I can't detail because, well, it's YouTube, head on over to ddlgplayground.com and use my coupon code Suris to get 10% off. Then when you buy those plugs, it'll plug my wallet, allowing me to plug my fridge with food to plug my mouth. If you're new here, why not subscribe? And with that, let's get into the fan art. Sorry for the shameless plugs, everybody. First of all, we have a Metaton Suris by Jack the Vulture, a Work in Progress Suris by Epicure of Vampiri, and then we have a Rule 63 Suris getting their hair shaved off by Spooky Boy Ray. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions, and let's get right into the video itself.
As Marvel itself is making waves, officially announcing the sequel, which will have a new writer and director because the previous crew was fired, possibly because of the demands and diva antics of Miss Brie Larson herself.
So the original writers were Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, and is it possible, just maybe possible, that the reason that they won't be working on Captain Marvel 2 is because they're going to be directing an upcoming Disney Plus series? Like, that seems to be what's pushing through the rumor mill right now, unless you're just desperate for a narrative against Brie Larson.
Also, our second story today, which we will get to later, it has to do with yet another woke Marvel property, Black Panther, which is possibly getting even more woke with its sequel and upcoming entries too, and you'll never guess why.
I can make a few guesses. It has black characters. That makes it woke. The film set in Africa has African-looking characters. Wow, so woke. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is this wonderful bastion of entertainment up until the point where either the main character is female or the supporting cast is mostly brown people. I wonder why those things might be. Speculation. We may never know the answers.
Hey, now that that's out of the way, let's jump right into the Captain Marvel news. The plank of wood, Brie Larson herself, or Captain Marvel, she's been making demands about her next film and the future for her series already.
Right, but if you're in a starring or important role in a film, you can make demands. This is something that literally anybody does. One of the most famous examples of this is Samuel L. Jackson, who usually tries to get at least one purple article on his costume. One of the most famous examples being when he got a purple lightsaber in The Phantom Menace, even though purple wasn't exactly a canonical color for a lightsaber at the time. Are we gonna get onto Samuel L. Jackson for breaking Star Wars canon? Oh, wait, no, that's right. We don't bitch about Star Wars unless it's the new trilogy. Anyways, back to Marvel.
And as I said earlier, the crew from the first movie is out, but also Marvel is openly searching for a very telling kind of replacement for them. A number of tweets have been spelling out the angle we're talking about here, like this example from Discussing Film, which says, Marvel Studios is hoping to find a female director for Captain Marvel 2, and are currently eyeing a 2022 release date. The film will be set in present day. Okay, nothing too alarming or shocking there, really. It's actually pretty typical, all things considered. But just for a moment, imagine if another film said they were specifically searching for a male director. Would that fly, let alone be a welcomed and honored and heroic kind of choice in this day and age?
Well, let's see here. Considering that 96.4% of the 112 directors of the top 100 films in 2018 were male, then yeah, female directors with the pedigree that they're looking for a smash hit like this are few and far between. So it's a good thing to try to elevate more female voices in this sphere. There's nothing telling or wrong or, oh, woke about wanting to have a female director in a male-led field to direct a movie about a female superhero.
message. Of course not, but for some reason, finding a woman director is this big, happy-go-lucky, positive headline, when really they should just be looking for the best director, or at the least, the one who can make this movie in the best way.
Yes, they are doing that, and something about that means that they want there to be a female director at the head. It's almost as if that is a decision being made to make a better, more profitable movie. Somewhere, in production, somebody said, hey, the director of the movie should probably be female. That's probably going to be the best way for us to make sure that we can portray this female character as someone who's relatable, which is something that people had issues with the first film. If people have issues relating with the character like they did in the first film, then getting a director who can possibly better step into the shoes of that character isn't a bad decision. In fact, it's like the most obvious decision that would be made here.
Maybe that is a female director then. I do understand the female girl power aspect of this Captain Marvel series now, but at the same time, these kinds of double standards in current year are getting rather nauseating, and the fact that these creators think they should be praised and propped up for doing this, well, that's quite a joke too.
Double standards? Again, 96.4% of the directors of the top 100 films in 2018 were all male. Egalitarianism in trying to improve that ratio is not a double standard, unless you want to try to make the awkward point that there was something about the other directors being women that caused them to only represent 3.6% of the base. But that would be a really awkward point that I wouldn't expect No Bullshit to make. Someone of his charisma and character would never say something as asinine and stupid as that.
I mean, do we really think Disney and Marvel are doing all this for the social justice warrior, pro-feminist, progressive causes that they're ranting and raving about? Please, they're just doing this political pandering to liberals to try and get attention and more viewers and to make more money off their films. And their shallow attempts to feign interest and support for this left-wing bullshit, well, it's enough to make a guy like me quite sick.
And you know what? You might be right there. But there are 2 points that come up as a result of that. Point 1, this still normalizes those things. This still normalizes female-led movies. This still normalizes any progressive thing that you have an issue with. And in my book, that's a good thing, even if it's being done from a marketing perspective. But speaking of that marketing perspective, there is a second point that I mentioned that we need to get into. If your real issue is that they want people to virtue signal for these movies to get free viewership, then have you considered that you are complicit in that cycle by taking your decently large YouTube channel and bitching, whining, moaning, and complaining about these movies? You are adding to that conversation in a very big way. And by doing so, you are part of the reason that more and more people are flocking to these movies. You might have a couple of your commenters who parrot your bullshit all the time, who'll probably lay comments down like, "Thanks, No Bullshit. I knew I wasn't going to go see this movie. It's bad and feminism sucks." But in reality, there are more and more people who don't comment on your shit, who either decide to watch this movie out of spite or out of morbid curiosity because insecure people like you in the quartering kept talking about how they're using this progressive mindset as a means to generating free marketing, whilst you guys generate the free marketing for them. Lots and lots of free marketing. If you really, honestly, and truly had an issue with these movies and wanted them to die out, the best thing you could do is shut up. As opposed to issues like religious cults, for example, where exposure is a type of sunlight disinfectant, what you're doing is arguing against a corporation that wants you to fight, that wants you to complain. They want to commodify your anger, commercialize the activism happening in favor of the movie. You're part of this cycle, and it is hilarious.
Next, let's turn to the source and article attached to this tweet, which features another picture of Brie Larson
Stiff
looking
and
angry,
unappealing.
uncomfortable, awkward,
I'm starting
and
to think
bored,
that your
and
problem
rather
is just
stiff
that you're
and
not
unappealing as
attracted
well.
to her enough. That really seems to be the case. I mentioned the insecure thing before as a joke, but geez, now I kind of feel bad for you.
And this unattractiveness is worth pointing out since recently, Larson has been obviously trying to counteract that and make her former frumpy self look better in the public now.
Wait. Her unattractiveness is worth commenting on because she's worn dresses that look attractive. You're just a tabloid. That's literally all you are. It's just a fucking tabloid. Like, there's absolutely no substance to your arguments. Just sensationalization and constant bitching.
And she's done so by going out and letting the girls out and getting overly sexualized and glammed up, even showing this massive cleavage on a few late night show circuits.
Wait, massive cleavage? Weren't you the one calling her a plank of wood?
Not the worst decision she's ever made, and sure, you could call me a pig, but I might have liked the Captain Marvel movie better if Larson actually looked sexy like this at least once in a while.
Oh, so that is your problem. You didn't get enough sexy female, and therefore you're sad. Okay, so 2 things. 1, porn exists. You need more sexy women? There's porn. 2, if you're going to have a character be sexualized, there are a few good reasons for it. Either A, the artist just really wanted that. Sorry, I'm gonna trump artist volition over most anything. Or B, it adds to the film in some way. Or C, it is integral to the plot. Take an anime like Kill la Kill. That story does not exist without the characters being sexualized in some way due to the mechanics of the world. Take a character like Mileena from Mortal Kombat. An overly sexualized character, but within the plot of Mortal Kombat, there is reason for it. Her face makes her insecure due to her Tarkatan DNA, and as a result, she portrays herself as overly sexy as a method of dealing with what basically comes down to body dysmorphia. But what reason would there be for sexualizing Captain Marvel? Unless you've got a scene in the movie where she's trying to actually interrogate somebody with her body, like, Black Widow, then I'd argue that it's not necessary for your enjoyment of the film. But if you desperately think you need cleavage to enjoy the film, then maybe instead of watching it in theaters, watch it at home on a dual screen setup where you can put Pornhub on the second monitor. You can even make it a game. Try to come every time you see something you think is SJW propaganda.
Perhaps Captain Marvel 2 will amend this situation because Brie Larson is clearly trying to get herself out there more, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't, but I doubt you'd be able to articulate it very well anyways.
The company has tapped rising scribe Megan McDonnell, a staff writer on the Marvel-based series WandaVision, to pen a script for a follow-up to the 2019 pick that starred Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson. McDonnell is in final negotiations to seal her deal. Sources say that Ann Bowden and Ryan Fleck, who co-wrote and directed the initial film hit, will not return to helm the sequel but are in talks to remain in the Marvel universe and direct a possible Disney Plus series, aka they're getting demoted.
I mean, is that really a demotion? Look at the Star Wars films. People have been enjoying The Mandalorian more than the actual recent trilogy. Given public perception, I wouldn't actually say that's much of a demotion.
Marvel is hoping to find a female filmmaker for Captain Marvel 2 and is eyeing a potential 2022 release. Well, this new team that's forming is going to have a lot of hard work on their hands here, especially if Samuel L. Jackson doesn't return to be Captain Marvel's co-star again. Sam playing a younger Nick Fury was most of the reason that first movie was even watchable at all, and now at this point, I really can't imagine him coming back to be a full co-star once again.
I mean, the reason that you have a young Samuel L. Jackson in the first movie is because people like familiarity, and since Captain Marvel was taking us to before Iron Man canonically, she, A, needed something to tie her into the rest of the cinematic universe cleanly, and B, there needed to be something that audiences were already familiar with because that's what guarantees sales right now. This is why so much of marketing is based on nostalgia. Familiarity breeds comfort, comfort breeds purchases. You can argue that he certainly made the film better, but I think that comes down to the mechanics of making a movie in a presently established universe, more so than just Brie Larson bad lol SJW feminism ha 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 ha.
He's literally getting too old for this shit, but the lack of a legendary co-star and the awkward call for finding a female director are hardly the most cringe parts of this story. This next piece's title really says it all here. It's called Brie Larson reportedly asking for equal pay and top billing in Avengers 5. Well, of course she is. Brie is a hothead, overly confident, shameless, and tactless human being. So it's not surprising she made this whole thing supposedly about gender equality, and also about notoriety and fame for her, over actually being about what's important, like giving a shit about the work and the art and the quality of these films.
So wait, a worker putting in time on a project is wanting equal pay to the other workers on the project who are in similar roles as her. Well, let's see here. Her movie made $1 billion at the box office, and if she ends up getting equal screen time as the other characters, which, with the notable exception of Robert Downey Jr., is what has been the case most of the time, then yeah, equal pay sounds reasonable. I don't see how it wouldn't be.
But Larson doesn't appear to be here to make great movies, nor is she here to put on a good performance. No, Larson wants to make it all about her ego, SJW politics, money, and now name placement in the credits and on movie posters.
Wait, so a person who is working on a project for money is making it about the money. You do realize that all of this is about money. Like all of this. This is not to please the fans. Pleasing the fans is a mechanic. It is a means to an end. The end is money. There can be people who are doing this as a project of passion involved, yes, but the majority of people who work on any project do it for the money that comes from it, because money is the mechanism we use for survival. And I don't see anything in that headline that screams SJW. It just screams, hey, I want an equal paycheck. I'm starting to become convinced that when you make these videos, you do it just because you like hearing yourself talk. And given that it's mostly verbal diarrhea, I can already tell what porn you need to put on the second monitor. 2 cows, 1 dog whistle.
Clearly, her and her camp are worried about the wrong things, and they're putting it out there pretty blatantly too. The other thing I can't stand about this bit is the way they try and frame it as if Brie is asking for equal pay. That's bullshit. That's just a fancy way of saying Larson is asking for more money she probably doesn't deserve.
Equal pay is just a fancy way of asking for more money. Holy shit, yes, of course it's asking for more money, you ignoramus. It's the fact that she wants as much money as her peers who are working on the same project, filling the same roles. Oh my god. Equal pay is just a fancy way of asking for more money. Yes, that's the point. You want more money so that the pay is equal. I'd say you have shit for brains, but we've already established that that's your words.
So don't try and make it this noble, high and mighty, like you're saving the world gesture. You're framing it as equal pay, which is misleading at best. And you're playing the system and using PC culture and the media to extort Marvel for more cash at worst. Just because you play a superhero in a few movies doesn't make you one, Brie. And just because you're one of the few heroes left in Marvel after the last movie retired a number of the major ones, well, just because you're one of the few still around doesn't mean you deserve more money. This chick is already getting paid millions and millions, but as we've seen time and time again, with SJWs like this, it's really never enough.
I don't know how many times I can listen to him say SJW unironically when it's just an actor playing a starring role, wanting equal pay to the other actors playing starring roles. It's like hiring 3 people for a minimum wage job, and then one of them says that, wait, these other 2 new hirees make $1 more than I do, after finding out that they have equal experience, and you are all working equal positions, and then you go to your boss and ask for equal pay. This is why it's so easy to exploit the working class. You create an environment where you say that your money is your business and nobody else deserves to know what you make, so that when you try to ask for something reasonable, like being paid the same as your peers who are doing the same job for the same amount of time with the same amount of experience, it can then be deflected under you're going against the cultural norm. In my example, why do you know what anybody else is making? That's none of your business. And in your example, SJW feminism. It ends up being the same thing. You're arguing that they're trying to get more money, but in both scenarios, the actual problem you're having is that cultural norms are being questioned, and that's scary.
But with Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, and Vision out of the picture, and Thor apparently due to be depowered, who will make up the next team? Well, there are a number of existing heroes who could fit the bill. I'd say Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Brie Larson's Captain Marvel are locks, though as the former has been gradually learning the ropes over his solo movies, and his tech genius filling in for Tony Stark. And obviously, the team needs some muscle. That's where the cosmically powered Captain Marvel comes in. Speaking of which, sources close to WGTC, the same ones who told us National Treasure 3 was in development months before it was revealed by The Hollywood Reporter, and that a Miss Marvel TV show was coming to Disney Plus before the studio officially announced it, say that Brie Larson is pushing for equal pay with their male co-stars and top billing in the movie, and while it's unclear if she'll get it, good for her for trying. Yeah, I guess you can't blame someone for trying, but at the same time, this word getting out does show what Brie Larson really cares about here, as I went over before. And also, all of the male co-stars she's referencing, they've all been with Marvel far longer than her, and thus they definitely deserve more pay than Brie, who is a relative newcomer. For example, Thor started with the series in 2011, and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man entered in 2016. Black Panther even has a year on Brie, and a few appearances over Captain Marvel too. Captain Marvel, who only joined the cast last year in 2019, making one other appearance in Avengers Endgame. So really, while Larson implies the male characters get paid more for unfair, sexist reasons, it's actually because of legitimate ones. They have more experience and they've done more work for the franchise. And the longer you're with the franchise and the more appearances you make, the more money you end up making too.
On an intuitive level, yes, that is normally the case. The more time you put in, the more you make. But the outrage about simply asking for equal pay, that's where I start to hold issue. If you are a co-star with Tom Holland and you are trying to say that you need as much money as Tom Holland, a meeting in the minds is going to have to commence. We're going to have to measure the amount of time that you've been on screen, the amount of attraction to any particular property that you happen to bring, how you perform in general, how long you've been with the company, and juxtapose that to what Tom Holland brings. And you may find that there are legitimate reasons for not receiving equal pay with Tom Holland. He might bring more. But for one, like I've said earlier in the video, there's nothing wrong with asking about equal pay. It's a measure to avoid exploitation. And B, your problem seems to be that for some reason you think that Brie doesn't deserve it, when the actual answer is that you don't know whether or not she deserves it. That's the actual truth. Because unless you're sitting around on that set 24/7, you, I'm sorry to say, don't know jack shit. At the end of the day, especially with your comments about the attractiveness earlier, I think your reasoning is that Brie isn't an attractive female to you, and thus doesn't deserve pay, at least not as much as her peers, which would mean that you're the exact type of person that Brie is having a problem with, the type of person who would in fact exploit people in a managerial position.
But Brie Larson doesn't want to do the legwork, and she doesn't want to earn her way up. She wants special treatment, more attention, and to be put above everyone else because she's a girl, I guess. Or rather, she's a feminist, and we know that's not about equality, it's about special treatment.
It's not about equality, it's about special treatment, and yet it's equal pay that she's asking for. Literally, like textbook definition equality.
Getting top billing might be a bit more difficult though. This is one of those things that don't seem particularly important to the average fan, but agents fight hard for it. From what we're told, Marvel Studios reportedly want Tom Holland to have top billing since they want him to be the face of the team. But we've also been informed that they aren't ruling out the option of letting Brie have it instead. Well, of course Tom Holland should get top billing here. The guy is playing frickin' Spider-Man. You know, the Amazing Spider-Man, one of the most famous characters of all time. Not just in comics either, he's like one of the most famous characters ever. So I'm sorry that Brie Larson ended up with a B or C level character like Captain Marvel, and sure, you've made a big fuss and some success with it, all things considered, but Captain Marvel will never beat out frickin' Spider-Man. This is like making a Justice League movie and giving top billing to Martian Manhunter or Aquaman, the latter of which has only gotten popular and cool in recent times, by the way. And this would completely be looking over the really famous characters like Batman and Superman, of course. Regardless though, I think you guys get the point. Marvel is trying to make the right move and probably going to lead with Spider-Man and Tom Holland going forward, particularly for the Avengers team-up movies, but now Brie Larson and her Captain Marvel are trying to squeeze their way into the top in the most awkward, inappropriate, forward, and undeserved way possible.
You mentioned the problem with your point literally as you were making it, though. Your issue is that Spider-Man is currently more popular. And then you mentioned that Aquaman has slowly become more popular on the side of DC. And then you criticized Brie for trying to make Captain Marvel more popular through awkwardly squeezing her way into the top, as you said. But the answer to your problem was in the way you laid this out. The only reason we see certain characters as popular is because of time, exposure, cultural norms that are constantly changing and shifting. Take a character like Iron Man, the character who heralded the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Iron Man, before that movie, was basically a joke. Compared to other Marvel properties, like Spider-Man, like the X-Men, characters like Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man were not terribly popular. The Avengers, as a team, is actually one of the weaker teams in the actual Marvel universe. The only reason we see them as the end-all be-all team versus something like the Justice League is because recent movies in cinema have pushed us that way. But people who have stuck with Marvel for years know that the Avengers aren't exactly the strongest out there. They're popular, yeah, but they're not as popular as, say, again, the X-Men. But why their rise in popularity now? Why are they so prevalent now? Why are characters like Iron Man so absolutely beloved? Because they awkwardly squeeze their way onto film and in people's hearts and minds. Because that's what movies do. It may be that one day Captain Marvel is as popular or more popular than something like Spider-Man. I seriously doubt it, much like the history with Batman and Superman makes them infinitely more popular than other characters in the DC universe. But the point is, rebelling so hard against a character gaining popularity and an actor trying to get equal pay for those attempts, it's honestly telling of something completely different, Brooks. Telling of an insecure YouTuber who's incredibly frustrated with the world changing around them, desperately clutching their pearls and screaming woke when it's a black cast or a female lead. I'm sorry, the attempt is honestly kinda pathetic. But after this, your video starts to talk about Black Panther, but only for like 2 minutes. So if you guys want to see the rest of that, the original video is linked in the description. For now, though, I think I'm done making my counterpoint. So that all said, if you guys enjoyed watching the video, then please hit the like button, share it with your friends. If you want to support my channel, the affiliate link I mentioned earlier is down below, as well as links to my merch store and Patreon. If you have any issues with anything I said, then please let me know in the comment section below, and let's hope the discussion continues there. But with all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.